It's just the freaking design of human bodies. That's intelligence that is in that system. And the brain knows that when you stand in that position, your cell at a cellular level, you believe that you got this, that there's not a threat, that you got this. And so the brain in its brilliance goes, oh, we got this. So I'm going to create some happy juice and I'm going to decrease the stress juice. So what happens, your cortisol.
Welcome to the Marketing Your Practice podcast, where we guide natural health and wellness experts through the pitfalls of marketing. Each episode, you'll learn simple, effective, easily actionable, and heart-centered marketing strategies. And here's your host, Angus Pyke.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Marketing Your Practice podcast. If you're in your car, I hope you've got your belt on and you're buckled in, because we've got a fabulous conversation that we're about to have. Now, we're going to be chatting with the amazing Dr. Cynthia. Now, Dr. Cynthia has worked with entrepreneurs and thought leaders for the past 30 years, which will amaze you because she looks 15 when you're watching the video as well.
Yeah, how'd that happen?
She helps them to empower and lead happier and healthier lives, which we all need as well. And she's going to talk a little bit today about how to use your body to project confidence and credibility and charisma as well. She's worked with Olympic athletes, America's Top Cup teams, and companies such as Dell Software and the Southern Californian Edison. These groups hire her to help create better performance and resilience. Now, in particular today, we're going to be talking about stage presence, and we're going to be talking through a concept called the stage authority formula, which I'm really excited about. Enough talking from me. Cynthia, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Angus. I'm so excited to be here and share this with your folks who are my people, the healthcare providers, people taking care of folks. And I think it will be really powerful information for them. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, we were talking beforehand because, and I get stuck in this too. I'm, love chatting about marketing, and our conversations tend to go a lot towards kind of online strategies and Facebook and Instagram and videos and blogging and all those kind of things there too. And, I mentioned to you beforehand, when I first, my first two practices and then the third one that I built too, my major strategy for reaching out to my community was through group talks. It was by communicating from one to many, and sometimes the many was two people, sometimes it was one as well. Right. But there's a real craft at which we don't talk. I don't talk enough about it as well, which is why I'm really excited to have you on here. Before we dive into all of that, though, can we have a little bit of your background story? If anyone's been hiding under a rock, doesn't know about Cynthia, what kind of brings you to this moment here now?
Right. Well, there are a lot of things I've been at this for 30 years. And so there has been a lot of beautiful paths that I've gone down. But in 2006, 2005, my husband and I sold our practice. So I practiced with my husband as a chiropractor, and we had built a successful practice and had done a lot of investments. And we had a plan, an awesome plan that we were going to take our kids, and my husband is French. We were going to spend some time in France and do some homeschooling, and we ended up buying an RV, and we're going to travel. We had all these things happening, and then my mother got cancer, and so we hung out and we stayed in town, and I really watched her die for a year and a half, and it was so hard, so hard. And as a doctor, it's like my doctor's heart is trying to figure out how to get this all done, and my daughter's heart is just, wow, it was a really hard time. Let me put it that way. And at the same time, that was when the market was crashing. And so everything that we had worked for 20 years, just, it's like so many people, the things that we had invested in, and, we had done what we thought was great. And so we moved, went through a lot of different gyrations, and decided that we're going to have to go back into practice, because we had thought that we had completed that chiropractic loop, and just like you said when I spoke to you before, it never gets out of your system. And so we said, well, we'll go back into practice. And much like you, one of the ways that I had gotten patients previously was going into companies and doing lunch and learns and, teaching them ergonomics or stress management or something. And I ended up really loving it. I totally remember the first patient orientation class, the first POC I did. I swear to God, the whole day I was sick there was 3 people that were patients of mine. I'd had their central nervous system in my hands for weeks before, and I just thought I was going to die. So anyway, long story short, we moved to a different city, and I thought, okay, well, I just let me go start talking again, because I had developed a joy for it, and I joined a Toastmasters club, and so I started giving talks. And if you've ever been to a Toastmasters club, there's like, they have their little rules, and one of the things they do is called a body language analysis. So each class or each meeting, somebody gets designated as the body language person. And Angus, all of you in the physical body workers will totally appreciate this, that the first time I did the body language, I just so knocked it out of the park. Because it's what we look at all day, like, oh, well, you're crooked, your shoulders are hunched, you're not carrying your authority, you look like a dork, like, move your body, like, so I nailed it. And it started this fascination with me about 6 years ago. And so I started doing talks. I got asked to give talks for Toastmasters for their conferences on body language, because it's everything that we do. And so that, for me, it was just really a lot of fun. And, I love nothing more than talking about posture. And I had to find a way to make it, other than getting adjusted. We talked about, I love to talk one-to-many. And so what's a problem that posture solves? I'm a solution looking for a problem, because I just think about it all the time. And speaking is really, and how you project yourself is so much about how you carry yourself. It's your stature.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just this week, one of the patients I was adjusting on Thursday, she's going along to some acting and voice coaching lessons.
Yeah.
And she said the entire first 2 hours that they were there, all her coach talked about was posture. Like, talk now and stand on this part of your feet, see what it sounds like. Change this, see what it sounds like. And she said, I was blown away. She said the different sounds my body made as I shifted my postures, I moved my tension in and away from my diaphragm, all those kind of things that too, which we never, obviously as body workers, chiropractors, massage therapy, many that are kind of listening to this, we're aware of the impact. But even as Lola was telling me, I'm like, wow, it made that much of a difference. She said, yeah, it was extraordinary.
Yeah, it is. It's extraordinary. And so the thing that I love about it, Angus, and all y'all are going to totally appreciate this. There's 3 elements to it, which I actually had to come up with a name with, because it was the 3 things I love to talk about. So I call it physical intelligence, but it's 3 things. One is how your alignment affects your energy, from the standpoint of everything that we all know about. We have to be vital and energized and basically healthy in order to get out there and be able to be resilient and have a sustainable business of any sort. So how your posture affects your energy. And then it's how you project out, so how your body affects other people's bodies and minds, in that you're perceived in a certain way, which we know affects every single interaction you have with people afterwards, that first impression. And then the third element, though, is how your posture affects your own brain, like how it changes your neurotransmitters so that you actually feel more confident, so you feel happier. It's just this beautiful trifecta.
Now, I'm sure you're aware there's an amazing, fascinating TED Talk where the woman...
Oh, yeah.
So can you tell our listeners a little bit about that? Because the hormonal changes and the confident changes that come with, was it a Wonder Woman pose? Is that what she called it?
Yeah. She called it power poses. I think it is the second most watched TED Talk of all time. Top 5. Let's say that way. Yeah. And it is for two reasons. For 2 reasons. One is that she really shared a heartfelt moment with us, which as speakers, it's really important that, as you talk about, we share some of our vulnerability and those soft spaces. And she gives us a very actionable thing, which is, stand like this, like Wonder Woman, in that pose, which we call, arms akimbo, and you're basically in kind of in the anatomical position, with
Yes.
your feet pointed straight ahead over your hips. I make it really easy for my clients and my patients. I call it bowling ball over buckets over booty over boots,
Yes.
meaning your bowling ball is your head, your buckets are a little bit like a yoke. In the old days, we used to wear buckets of water on a yoke. So
Yes.
kind of pulling down over your booty and then over your boots. So it's that alignment and taking up space. And what happens, you're obviously not going to stand like that if we're an interview or on the stage necessarily. But when you do that, it changes your own neurotransmitters, because it's just the freaking design of human bodies. That's intelligence that is in that system. And the brain knows that when you stand in that position, your cell at a cellular level, you believe that you got this, that there's not a threat, that you got this. And so the brain in its brilliance goes, oh, we got this. So I'm going to create some happy juice and I'm going to decrease the stress juice. So what happens, your cortisol and adrenaline diminish in some studies by 25%, and your testosterone, which even for women is that risk taking and feeling confident, that elevates 15% after 2 minutes of doing that.
Wow. And I can imagine, Cynthia, this would be helpful and valuable to do, not only when we're giving some kind of public presentation, but when we're meeting new people. I would know, for me, if I was about to meet a doctor for the first time and they walked in the room and they gave off this sense of, I've got this, it's like, I'd want to work with that person. Like, so
Of course.
Yeah. Other areas in our life that
Yeah.
this kind of spills over into. Yeah.
Well, posture is a 24/7 thing.
Yes.
I'm speaking to the choir, but there's no time that as long as you have a spine and you are under gravity, you should always be in alignment. That's pretty much it. There's just no time that is okay. There's just not, whether you're talking to a patient or for your own physiology and psychology, because physiology drives psychology.
Yeah.
Yeah, yours and everybody else's perception of you.
That's what's fascinating about it, because you go, okay, because from my memory showed too, is that not only, when I did this power pose beforehand, and I'll make sure in the show notes as well, I'll put a link to if you hadn't seen the TED Talk, it was there.
Yes.
And I actually went and read some of the studies in behind it too, because when the people did the power poses as well, it increased their chances of being employed in those situations.
Yes.
A whole bunch of things came across that way that really changed there as well. You have a process or a formula that you call the stage authority formula. Where does this kind of fit into that?
So your audience will appreciate this too. I always love to go back to biology, right?
Yes.
So if you think of yourself, as you have mentioned before in the talk that we did, that we come from hunter and gatherers, 10,000 generations of hunter and gatherers of bands of around 150. So up until pretty much biologically till yesterday.
Yes.
And so if you can imagine being on a savanna and you've got your tribe in your enclave, and in the distance a couple of people figures are moving towards you, what's the first thing that your primitive brain is going to notice as a threat, from a threat standpoint?
Yeah, I guess you're looking at posture, you're looking at how they're holding themselves.
Yes.
That's what you're kind of looking at. Absolutely. Yes.
Exactly. It's their alignment.
Yes.
Because that tells you their capacity. It tells you, because we're always doing this, like, can I take him? Is he going to take me? And the first thing we notice is our alignment. Because if somebody is walking like that, are they going to be more or less of a threat to us?
Yeah, less.
Yeah, totally. Our brain's going to go, oh, I got them. If it comes down to it, I got them. But also that is part of what we need to create as authority. So if you look at somebody like Colin Powell, and the reason they teach this so strongly in the military is because it works. Colin Powell, you would never see slunched over, would you?
No.
No, he's always got that, what's called command presence, and it comes from his alignment. So the formula, the first actionable part of it is the alignment. If we back up though, before you even think about alignment, there's 3 P's that you have to think about. One is your purpose, One is the people that you're connecting with, and the third is the persona that you need to be in order to be that bridge between your message, which I believe is a holy message or like a sacred message to you that you're here to channel, and the beautiful peeps that you're trying to help. So I look at us all like disco balls.
Nice.
When people say, I want to be authentic, I'm like, yeah, dude, so which authentic part of you are you going to be? Are you going to be the mom or the sister or the little girl or the raving crazy person? Because you're all of it. Because we're disco balls. We've got all these facets. It's what Brene Brown talks about, being wholehearted, like embrace it all because it's all you.
Yes.
So which disco facets, which beam do you want to embody in order to be the best bridge between your message and the people that you're trying to share that message with? And so that all comes to the purpose and people and persona.
When you're talking with people about, what their levels of authenticity is, do they get stuck? Do they get, with who am I going to choose and how should I choose? And why do I want to be like, Brene Brown, or do I want to be like Tony Robbins, or do I need to, like, how do we find that level of authenticity? Have you got thoughts around that?
I have many thoughts around that because I love to give my opinion.
Hence me asking the question.
Yeah, thank you. Well, so I think that what is most authentic is to be the cleanest messenger to deliver that message in that moment to that person. So I cannot deliver a message to you in the same way that I deliver it to a CEO, in the way that I do it to 8th graders when I teach them about their posture and presence. Because that's not authentic. That's being all about me and my trying to say, well, I'm going to be who I am. Okay, that's great. But that's not being authentic to the message. That's not being authentic to being like the best messenger that you can in service of the person and the message. So I have a contrarian view on the authenticity thing.
Yeah, so it kind of changes as with what's going on, yeah?
Yeah, it's being adaptable, and that's what our human ecosystem is supposed to be, adaptable, right? It's just goofy to think I'm going to always be like this, because reality is you're not. Yeah.
I think what's interesting about that too, I often have a chuckle because sometimes, you go around to different kind of business groups and, you're studying marketing and entrepreneur, those kind of stuff. And they talk about this kind of elevator pitch where I'm going to stand inside an elevator and you're going to give you a little 30 to 60 to 90 second speech. Look, I think this, I don't care how cool your 90-second speech. If you jump inside an elevator and start talking to me, I'm going to think you're a freak. So
right.
That's about be aware of your audience. And
right.
There's an idea of, a great friend of mine, Martin Harvey, who's such a beautiful communicator. Martin always talks about, your message. There are two sides to a message. There's the message, but there's also the receiver side of it. And you need to change that. And ideally, your message should always be communicating in the language of the person that's listening to the message there too. So it should change. It needs to change. Yeah. And I think that's what a caring, thoughtful person does, is they go out of their way to really, and, you obviously have a level of emotional intelligence. And I think when we're watching people all the time, we're looking for feedback and rapport. We're like, is this message hitting the path, or is it missing somewhere along the way there too? So I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you and I both like to work with people that are heart-centered and that they have a message, they're taking a stand on something. And it doesn't have to be like the message of the universe. It could be just like they have a point of view, which I believe part of my stage authority formula is that we need to be the most vital, capable vessel in order for that message to download into us.
Yep.
So that actually is part of the big picture, is like your body is not just this meat sack, we talked about. And I get, even though I love Dave Asprey for many of the things he does, when he talks about bodies as meat sacks, and many other people, we all believe that it's from the neck up, like all the important stuff happens from the neck up. It's just not true. This body has got infinite intelligence at a cellular level that we we need to take advantage of. And we read body to body. It's not, they've done studies and they find that when people have high blood pressure, if somebody comes in and sits next to them, their blood pressure will elevate to go in sync with that. There's no above the neck communication. It's a cell to cell thing. And that's what happens with audiences. Their body is reading your body.
Yeah. There's so much to it when somebody's giving a message. I spend a lot of time talking about creating a video as well. And yes, there's the words that you're saying, and there's the structure of, we talk about a 5-part kind of video structure there too. But you're so right, that those intangibles. And the thing is too, Cynthia, that they're so damn hard for me to coach. I'm like, that it's right, missing. Yeah. But what is it? And I think certainly, our audience that are listening to this are health practitioners. Man, if you don't look healthy, get that in place beforehand. Paul Chek, whose stuff I love to listen to, he says, if you're a health practitioner and you're out there lecturing, you should be doing it in your underwear, which is a bit full on. But what he's saying
essentially,
he's saying, do you represent, are you the product of what you're selling as well? And I got to really agree. I don't want to take advice of somebody that smells of cigarette smoke. I don't want to take advice of somebody that looks like, man, you can't even manage your own health. Why should I be taking advice from you about kind of managing mine as well? So, there are all these kind of steps that build through it.
What you're really talking about is alignment. It's alignment. And we believe it begins in the body, but it's really what is physical is metaphorical. That's the way the brain is designed.
Yes.
So, this whole concept of alignment initiates through embodied cognition, through our actual parts, and understanding what alignment is through the physiology, which gives us the capacity to understand what it is as a concept. And so, that's why when we're talking about this formula, we're going back to the basic physiology of how our brains function and what they're looking at, body to body. That's right. So you align yourself, and then, okay, now you've got all this, then you can go to the next levels. But if you're like this, nobody is going to look at you as the authority that you are. And frankly, they shouldn't. Because if you're on stage like this, what that is saying to your own brain is that you are nervous about what you're saying. Maybe you don't believe it, or as you talked about, you don't have that confident wheel going quite the way it needs to be. If you do, then you need to literally stand in your power, pull those shoulders down, be willing to be in front of the stage and take a stand for what it is that you're saying. Literally.
Yeah, I like it.
A stance. You really feel like you kind of go, oh, yeah, I feel kind of badass when you stand that way, because once again, that is the design. It's the human operating system. Thank goodness.
So I'm just, I think about all the people that I coach through Community Influencer that are struggling to take the next step of whatever it is. And I wonder how many of them, because I know they're competent. I know they can help people. They've been, had a successful practice for decades. They're good at what they do. And that's about how do we take that message out and share it with more people? The thing that may just be holding them back is just physiology,
Yeah.
And if they can just, I'm telling myself I'm not so great. I've got this hunched over physiology, which then reinforces that I'm not so great. So of course I don't want to reach out to the world as well. But what if I just changed my physiology, changed my body there as well, and then ask myself that question? Then, as you talked about before, maybe then I start to kind of embody that badass type sort of persona moving forwards.
It's just a beautiful feedback cycle. So how I look at it is you energize your system first, and then you embody it, and then you go engage. You don't try to engage without doing all this, because, research indicates that 93% of what we're communicating isn't what's coming out of your mouth. It's what your body is saying. How you sit, stand, walk, bend, how you move, what's happening in your facial expressions. So do you go in that order? What everybody does is they want to do the engage piece. I want to do videos. I want to do business development. I want to find all these things we do in business development, our marketing, our ideal client. Oh yeah, that's what I'm going to spend my time on. I'm like, okay, but when you go to do this engagement, if you don't have vital energy and you're not embodying that person literally, then this is going to be of minimal effect.
So when I've got all of that sorted, physiology is good, alignment is great, purpose is feeling great, and I'm then wanting to design a presentation, and particularly, whether it be one of those kind of keynotes that might be 60 to 90 minutes there too. Is there a structure to that helps to keep an audience engaged, to lead to the outcome that we wanted?
Yeah, totally. I mean, please, I have a very strong opinion on the body versus the content, but I do know that content and messaging and words are super powerful.
Right.
It's just, they're not the first thing. When it's human to human, they're not the first thing. But when you have a structure to a signature talk, and a signature talk, that's what it's called in the industry. We might call it a patient orientation class or a lunch and learn. But basically, there's 4 different things that you need to accomplish. You need to have them connect to you. So at the beginning of your talk, you want to first establish your authority, because you have to establish authority. There's a lot of research that says, you want to have authority and likability. You want power and warmth. Totally true. And people are not going to listen to you at all to begin with if you don't establish your authority. And so you do that first. And then immediately following that, you make yourself accessible. So
Yes.
then you create the warmth. So it's the first is you create the accessibility, like I'm ordinary and yet I'm pretty extraordinary. That's why you're here, to listen to me, and you're always trying to do both of those things. What
are some examples of how I could establish authority with an audience?
Well, first of all, and super important, is your introduction.
Yes.
So when you, if you're smart, you give the introduction to the person that's going to introduce you. And I can tell you, oh my God, I had one of the worst introductions by a mentor of mine who was actually doing me, had me come and speak on his stage, which is a big stage. I was really lucky, but it gave me, the introduction just was not appropriate. He's like, I got this. I was his personal chiropractor too. So for 2 years, I was taking care of him so he could get up on these stages around the country. And so I thought, okay, he's got this. Oh my God, it was so not, it did not establish my authority at all. So what you need to do is you write out the bio and the introduction, so that if somebody else is establishing your authority, which is really the best way.
Got it.
And then you come out. How you come out sets the tone for all of it. Whether you're just coming on a podcast and you're walking from one place to the next, or you're walking on stage, or you're walking into a treatment room, that alignment and movement is the next level of that. So how you hold your parts and how you move your parts, foundational. So that is establishing your authority. And then you establish the warmth through your smiles.
Yes.
The easiest possible way. Plus it makes your own neurology and psychology happy,
Yeah. Other things, I'm going to get nitty gritty on here because it's my way my brain works.
Yeah.
Ideally, we would want somebody else to read out our bio, which we would write. Are there things that are valuable for you to put in your bio that will help to establish that authority? What should we say? What shouldn't we say? If we've got 3 or 4 sentences, we want to keep it short and brief.
It is a tricky one, but you need to establish that you have gotten results with people that might be a little bit similar to them, or that they aspire to be like.
Yes.
So like in my bio, I said, this is a bunch of healthcare providers. So they want to know, are you a successful practitioner? Why should I even listen to you?
Yes.
So what I said was, I have worked with Olympics athletes from 6 different countries. And
Yes.
I have. My
Yes.
husband is a 6-time Olympian. So
Yes.
we've worked with kayakers from all around the world. I have worked with companies like Dell Software, so that establishes that I'm legit. But you don't want to go to overload all the things that you've done, So I said that I was 30 years in practice. So I'm not brand new, which is awesome to be brand new, because you just use that in a different way. You put that to your bent interest. But whenever I go on stage, the first thing I do before I even speak is I walk out with authority, and not like, and we as practitioners know there's a big difference between contracting your rhomboids and like standing in like I'm gonna,
Yes.
knock you down kind of a way, as opposed to just being in alignment and pulling your shoulders down. I call it the Queen's walk or the King's walk.
Yes.
You're not like a ready, but you're elegant, you're regal, you're refined, you have presence. And then get on the middle of the stage and just look at people and smile. And with your palms open, like you're open them. So you just, before you even said a word, you're establishing your likability and your authority.
Yeah, I love it. I love that journey there too. So likability, authority, and then again, what happens after that? Is there a way in terms of a content structure, or because I'm kind of hearing that's not your gig, that get those first ones kind of sorted and then let the content kind of flow, or is there a structure in a front that might work?
That's good question. There is, if your goal is to convert. And by convert, I mean have them, you're selling, even if you're not selling a product, you're selling an idea. You're selling something that you want them to come with you and be on the journey with you, that you can help them. And so you start out with that, connecting on the heart and establishing your credibility, and then you give them content. I strongly believe in education-based marketing, so that you, like you talk about, there's a problem and you're showing them how to solve that problem. I like to give them 3 data points. And with every data point, I think there should be a point and a story. So like you show them a client testimonial, how somebody had that problem and you helped them. And you share their name. Obviously, you don't share their last name, but you like make it personal. So there's data, and the data drives down to your call to action. So the next sequence would be your call to action, what it is that you want them to do. And that also infuses everything from the very beginning, is that call to action, because you're going to seed that throughout your talk.
Yes.
You're not going to seed it like, oh, and I'm about to give you something. You're just seeding that you worked with this person, and the way you work with them got that result for them. Or they came to my office and I was working with them, and this is what we produced for them. Or they took my course and now they were able to go out and they had a great speech, or they did a great talk, or they got that promotion, and then at the end, a lot of people wait to the end to do their offer, or do their offer, whatever it is, their call to action. But I don't think you should do that. I think we want to end with some a reconnecting with them. So that's the formula, a signature talk formula, which I love, but it's not the thing that is really most important is how you deliver it, but the structure is secondarily important. So I put together a little video and signature talk outline that helps me, and I use that every single time I go through this structure, so that it gets me thinking, what is it that I need to do? Who do I need to be? What is the purpose that I've got there?
Yeah. And so that's a video training that you've put together. Where can they go and find that video training?
The training is on the course site, which is stageauthorityformula.com /signature talk. Yeah. So that will it will take them through the process, because it's a little bit different than a POC. It's a little bit certainly different than a 10-minute video.
Yeah. I think there are things though, regardless of whether somebody going, grabbing their phone and going live for a minute on Instagram, or doing a longer talk too, thinking about what does my posture reflect of me, how am I presenting, all those kind of things there would be super valuable there too. I'm going to go and check that out as well. I'll have that link in the show notes for everybody as well. There's another thing I really want to talk with you about today. It's a passion project that you're working on at the moment. And it seems to be a question that I have come to me all the time, is this idea of tech overwhelm, which is, yes, I want to share my message one-to-many, but cameras and videos and editing and WordPress and ClickFunnels, and I don't know where to start. What do I do? How do I do it? and you're putting together a summit. You're interviewing a whole bunch of people, of which I was lucky enough to be interviewed on too. Tell us about the kind of what the mission is with that, what started that, what your vision is, and then how people can be involved in that project as well.
Oh, well, thanks for asking. And honestly, thank you so much for being, you were just delightful to interview, just the best. Obviously you do this so well. You made it easy and plus fascinating information. And for me, the reason that I decided to do that was I am so overwhelmed by technology. You know, I might not look like it, but I am over 40 years old.
No.
Yeah.
For those of you that are watching the video or not watching the video, you should go and watch it now. And you go, Cynthia, not true.
No, I'm so very
Angus
far over. Yeah, that's so silly. Yeah, I am way over 40. So I grew up when there was no answering machines. There was no emails. There was certainly none of these little things that are taking over our lives. And I have a love-hate relationship with them, but mostly I have been in this business development, as many of your group has, and you go to one guru and they say, you got to do the Insta-Snap book-based chat, blah! And so you got to do that, and then that, and then that, and then that, and then Zoom, and then Aweber, and then ClickFunnels, and then lead pages. And I was like, oh my God, I just want to just take a nap. And so I work with speakers and entrepreneurs, and we're all in this same little thing. And as we talked about, that we have a fear that masquerades and gets us stuck in this. So I thought, okay, well, why don't I just have some people come on and tell me strategically how to think about this, and then have some case studies of people who have solved this and how they use it as speakers and entrepreneurs themselves, and then some, brilliant experts. And so that's what I'm doing. So I'm basically helping myself.
Yeah.
And all the people that are in the same situation, which honestly is most of the people that I talk to.
Yeah. And it's all of us, at some level we get stuck because technology is evolving on a daily basis, and what worked last week is different this week. And even if you're using the same platform, they go ahead and they darn well update it, and the buttons aren't in the same place that they were.
What with that?
You get one thing sorted and then it kind of changes from there too. So I think it's going to be a great project, and Cynthia's giving it all away for free. You don't have to do anything. She's going to kind of drip it all out to you. There's going to be, how many people are you into? Is it 20?
No, I've got, right now I've got 24.
24. Yeah. Great. Okay.
24 different experts. Yes.
Yeah. So you've started doing this. By the time we release this, and I'll make sure I kind of release this in the time leading up to it. So I really want to encourage all of our listeners, head to the show notes. You know where it is. Head to adiomedia.com/podcast. You'll find this episode here with Cynthia and I. And somewhere in the show notes there will be all the details for where you can get in and engage with the summit as well. If you're feeling technology overwhelmed, this is the spot for you to go and check there as well. I love your message that you've shared today, Cynthia. It's got me really thinking, because I get hung up on content structure because I love that kind of stuff. I think it's just how my brain works.
And you're brilliant at it.
But you've really, thank you firstly, you've really reminded me that because I know that so much of communication has nothing to do with that. It's you and I connecting, we're smiling at each other, we're just being human beings inside of there as well. And this idea that, perhaps what's holding me back in some areas there too is all that's in between me and me taking action might be some postural changes, getting into that power posture. I love that excites me as well. So do you have any kind of final thoughts that you'd like to kind of share with our audience? And then can you let them know also, where they might kind of find out more about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the thing that I would really love you as healthcare practitioners is to understand that when it comes to alignment and posture and health, it's always so much more than just those things. It impacts people's lives on this really profound level in their ability to communicate who they are with others. And that is what is the bridge between your message being like up here in the ether, trying to channel down through you, and the beautiful souls that you're trying to help. And sometimes the noise we have that we create ourselves by not holding ourselves right, or not moving on stage, or not being healthy ourselves, that noise we can fix. Really just like stand in your power. And if you don't hold yourself in high esteem, then people will not literally hold you in high esteem. So that would be what I would say. And, if you want more information, you can go to stageauthority.com. And I'd love you to get the video I did, because I think it'll be really helpful. It was helpful to me, and I use it every time.
Yeah.
So
well, I'm going to get it. You'll be aware, you'll see me popping up there shortly, because I'm interested in kind of learning more about it as well. Cynthia, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. And I really want to honor you for, the difficult time. You had this vision where you and your family were going to go off kind of wandering through Europe, and the challenges that kind of came about with your mum passing and the difficulties of that, to say, we're going to hunker down and we're going to try something new, and we're going to reinvent ourselves. And, you look at this now, and then this next part of your journey of this too. I love constant and never ending improvement. And you seem to be just such a living example of it too. So thanks for being so ace with that. Thanks for joining us in here. To all of our wonderful audience, gang, thanks for all that you do. Remember, guys, you save lives each and every day.
Absolutely.
Keep at it. Cynthia, goodbye. Thanks for sharing your time with us today. I will talk with you again really soon. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out the Community Influencer Program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work one-on-one with you to apply, implement, systematize, and help guide you and your practice to the next level. Now you can join me on over at adiomedia.com/join. That's adiomedia.com/join. I'd love to see you in there.